Hi, it's Anna here. Thanks for tuning in. So in today's video, I want to specifically discuss the emotion of anger and how powerful that emotion is and how it is the gateway for us, especially empaths, out of the matrix frequency. And so what I want to discuss specifically is that we've been programmed to distrust and fear that emotion. So we've been programmed through witnessing as children, what reactive anger is and how toxic it is. We've also experienced it for ourselves, right? That reactive anger and how, it doesn't feel good. We become out of control. We felt it as well. So it's not just others. But also the programming. And I feel the programming has really increased in the last 20 to 30 years. The programming has been crammed down our throats that anger is a dirty, negative emotion that needs to be subdued, annihilated, and regulated. And that anger is a secondary emotion, as if anger cannot be an emotion in its own right. Can it be sometimes a secondary emotion? Absolutely. Sometimes it can mask something else, like grief. But other times, it is a very valid emotion in its own right. So what I want to discuss today is that the issue that we have is that we are conflating reactive anger and righteous anger. We are not making that very clear distinction between the two. We are amalgamating the two, and it's creating a lot of confusion for everyone. It's creating a lot of distrust and fear of anger as an emotion, and essentially it's keeping people stuck and passive. So we actually have a pandemic of people who no longer feel angry when they should. They've become so suppressed that they've muted that alarm system, or they feel guilty, or they become passive and agreeable in the face of abuse and disrespect. I recently came across the nervous system regulation traffic light system, and it actually explains this so well. It explains that what's happening is that people aren't even feeling angry, so they're not even at the orange light. They're going down to the red, which is actually worse. So it's, when you are disassociating from what you are feeling, and you becoming apathetic, essentially. You can even look at the map of consciousness, this thinking and this belief and this inability to use righteous anger as a fuel for transformation, like the alchemist that we are. It's keeping us at a very low level of frequency. And what's happening with that, when you are suppressing your innate intelligence within your body, because that's what it is, the emotions are an inner guidance system. They're not always valid, but they are a messenger. So we should always pay attention to them and see what's what that message is trying to tell us. When you suppress and pacify that, you are not being honest with yourself. You are abandoning yourself and what your body is telling you. This can have extreme consequences on someone's health. And that's why we have an epidemic of women with autoimmune disease, an epidemic of women with low iron levels. I truly believe that this is directly correlated to our inability to feel anger and use it like the powerful fuel that it is, in a healthy way, because we do need to make that distinction between reactive anger and righteous anger. So let's get into it. Reactive anger, we've all experienced it. It's, road raging, getting angry because you're tired, you need a snack, or like you just, we're all human, we're not perfect, it happens, right? Does that need to be regulated? Yes, of course. We can't just be screaming all the time, and it's not it's not an accurate representation of the emotion. Like feeling that reactive anger should make us pause and see what's happening underneath so we can actually try to address the root cause of the issue, right? If you are at a point where you're just so run down and you're screaming at your kids all the time, of course you spend some time addressing the issues, as in you probably need to allow space to spend some time on your own and have some stillness in your day and meditate and do all that stuff. Absolutely. We need that regulation. That information is valid for reactive anger. Righteous anger, though, is very different. Righteous anger is a pure energy that comes directly from spirit. It's an inner fire. And the reason why I'm able to discuss it and make the distinction between the two is because I've experienced it in the last few years. And as I've gone deeper and deeper within myself and having the ability to feel more subtle forms of energy, I've been able to feel the difference between the two. When you are going through this transformation and doing a bit of trial and error and putting those boundaries and seeing what works and what doesn't work, it might feel at times that it's a fine line between the two, right? And that's why we have this fear of hurting others, this fear of being toxic. I've said before that our biggest work as empaths is to reconnect with the organic dark aspect of ourselves. And that fear that we have is very valid because we can be toxic. Everyone's human. We can be toxic at times, and that has to be addressed. But righteous anger is very different. So as you go through that transformation and feeling into these things and these energies, you might think that it's a fine line between the two. I'm telling you, there's nothing similar between the two. It's night and day. So reactive anger comes from a place of wanting to prove yourself. It actually comes from a place of insecurity, wanting to argue, wanting to attack, being in the fight, right? Wanting to be right. There's so many things. Righteous anger comes from a pure place of self-love, self-worth, and self-respect. It has nothing to do with attacking anyone. It has nothing to do with being right or hating anyone or blaming anyone. It's rooted in an unwavering inner authority that comes directly from spirit. And it's a fuel that helps you to express yourself and put very clear boundaries against toxicity and disrespect. So if we go back to the traffic light system, I know that for many years, whilst I was in an emotionally abusive relationship, I was stuck in reactive anger. So I was stuck at the yellow light. So I was, trying to prove my point, trying to convince the other person that they're wrong, that, trying to, and I was, I was right in many ways, like he was toxic. But it's the wrong energy. It's a very depleting, disempowering energy. Trying to show him that, he should behave better, sometimes really attacking, you get to this reactive abuse energy that's just so depleting. And the thing when you're dealing with narcissism as well is that they love that. They do this on purpose. They push your buttons until you reach that place of, raging and losing control. And then you look up and you see them smirking because they got what they wanted. They got the supply of energy. Because if you're familiar with the empath narcissists and, energy vampirism, what's happening in that dynamic is that the narcissist is siphoning your energy, your life force energy. So when you experience righteous anger, on the contrary, which is rooted, like I said, in self-love, It's just an unwavering inner authority, like I'm reclaiming my voice and my space, and I will no longer tolerate disrespect and toxicity. You're not doing it to prove anything because you know your worth. You're not doing it to convince the other to change because you're beyond that. You're like, no. For me, at one point, it felt like, I think about that Gandalf scene in Lord of the Rings. You know, the you shall not pass energy, that was that. And for me, culminating this journey with me standing up to my psychopathic dad, him attacking me physically, and me having to tackle him to the ground in self-defense. So when I talk about all that stuff, I talk from a clear space of experience and embodiment. That scene, you shall not pass.
You shall not pass!
Very clearly shows what righteous anger is, because Gandalf doesn't actually attack the demon or that creature that's attacking him. He just puts a space on with his staff, and you shall not pass. It's a clear boundary. It's self-defense, but more than that, it's not just self-defense, it's protection. It's understanding your purity, your worth, and understanding that that needs protection, right? Especially as an empath, your open heart and your purity and your innocence needs protection. And once you embody that and once you understand that, nothing can pass. You will not let anything pass. And, you know, people will tell you that that's not the way, that we just need to forgive and forget and regulate and all that stuff. That could be the path for other people. I'm telling you, for empath, it's not the path. For empath, anger, righteous anger, is the gateway. And it actually shows it very clearly in the Map of Consciousness by David Hawkins. And he actually even says it in his book, that in the face of toxicity and abuse, anger is the right answer, the right response. So righteous anger, you actually no longer come from a place of reactivity and reaction. It's a response. It's a controlled response. It's a decision. So the reason why I'm saying that it's the gateway is that to get to that green light in the nervous system green light image, I was never able to do it while staying in passivity or fight. So I was wavering for decades between the fight and flight response, basically, the yellow. I was in the fight or the fawn. Some people actually waver between the yellow and the red, because that's when you crumble and you don't even defend yourself anymore. So reactive anger, we understand that it's not healthy, and we understand that that's not true power, right? We understand that with great power comes great responsibility, and we can see and feel very clearly that reactive anger doesn't feel good. It's not right. It's depleting. It's not empowering. It's not right. Although I would argue that it's still better than completely going to the red, where you're completely apathetic. To get to the green light, you need righteous anger. So when people talk about regulating that anger and sort of like bypassing that to get to that level of neutrality and acceptance and peace, it could be true for other people, but for those of us who've accepted way too much, who've allowed toxicity, disrespect, abuse, takers, because it doesn't actually have to be abusive. Empaths tend to be surrounded by a lot of takers, To rebalance all of that, you're going to need righteous anger. Righteous anger is the key to that green light. It is also the key out of the matrix frequency in the map of consciousness. So sometimes we need to regulate our anger, right? To get that emotional regulation, we can I don't know, go for a run, meditate, all that stuff. But sometimes the most regulating thing we can be doing is to use it, to tap into that fuel, that inner power, and use it to alchemize it. And that's going to look like speaking up, using your voice, and actually calling out bullshit behaviors when it's toxicity and disrespect, putting clear boundaries with people. And by boundary, I mean not wavering, it's a boundary. And it's a gateway in the sense that it's not that you're going to be stuck there forever. Once you get to the green space, you don't actually need to use anger anymore, because your frequency is going to shift so high that there will no longer be any toxicity and abuse and disrespect and breadcrumbs and takers in your life. Once you use righteous anger as the gateway that it is, which is all about the dark feminine, to come out of that, it's embodied, it's anchored, your frequency reaches such a high state that you don't actually need to use it anymore. It's just a gateway. And so much programming and information out there is conflating and not making a clear distinction between something pure and divine and something toxic. And one book that I really recommend is Dodging Energy Vampires by Christian Northrup. She explains all of this so well. The fact that righteous anger in the face of abuse and toxicity and disrespect is the answer. And you know that it's the answer because you feel it in your body. The more you connect within, the more you're going to be able to tap in and make the distinction between sometimes I feel out of control because I'm so tired and run down and I just need to go have a nap or a snack or give an apology to my kids because I wasn't patient enough. And sometimes I need to use that fuel to put those clear boundaries, to be firm with my kids, to be firm with others, and unwavering in that firmness. So there are a lot of pacification programs that are designed to keep us, or to bring us actually even out of the orange light into the red light. So one of them that I've been speaking about a lot in my other channel, my parenting channel, that's called Grow with Anna B, is what I call permissive parenting or perfectionism parenting. And people who come from very dysfunctional, abusive childhoods are prime for that pendulum swing. They are so fearful of repeating the mistakes that our parents have made that they then swing way too much the other way to permissive parenting instead of staying rooted firmly in the middle, which is authoritative parenting. So I'm seeing it everywhere. And I want to make that clear distinction between the two energies. Because not using that anger as fuel is blocking you from that inner transformation that you are seeking. And that inner transformation is key to changing your external reality. Sometimes feeling that anger and using it as fuel to speak up is the regulation that you need. And it is the only way to truly keep an open heart. Because I think there's that fear as well for us empaths that, you know, we're going to become toxic if we do that. We're going to close our heart. But the reality is that when you're suppressing that messenger and that fuel, it actually leads to bitterness and resentment. Because you're suppressing your own inner guidance system, you're suppressing your own needs, your own voice. It actually doesn't lead to an open heart. There's a quote from the book Dodging Energy Vampires that I want to read now, actually. Dr. George Solomon, a pioneer researcher in the field of psychoneuroimmunology, taught that the immune system has morals. It responds in a positive way to righteous anger, the kind of anger that is natural to feel when your own innocence or that of another is threatened. Our immune systems won't let us get away with bypassing our more difficult emotions if we want to remain healthy. Anger is, after all, the appropriate response when you are being abused. Suppressing it is a health risk. So, righteous anger is the right approach, you know, in the face of toxicity, abuse, disrespect. But beyond that, I don't want to block that message and just focus on that. Sometimes that fuel that you're feeling inside, it's because a boundary is being crossed, and you simply lovingly need to tell people that you're not going to be doing that. Overall, you shouldn't be doing anything out of a sense of obligation or a fear of hurting others. I don't want to limit this discussion on just toxicity and abuse, because whilst I've experienced toxicity and abuse, I've also experienced moments where I feel that fuel. And it doesn't mean that I need to call anything out, but I'm still listening to it and saying, no, I can't do that. I won't be meeting you, or I won't be doing this. It's still a very important messenger. Completely different to reactive anger. So another thing that I want to explain is that with reactive anger, as you know, which I've mentioned before, the narcissist gets the supply, the loosh of energy. They get fed off of that. That's why they keep pushing your buttons. That's why they do it. It's a release of energy for them. With righteous anger, though, what I've realized in my experience with my father is that they can't feed off that. Because righteous anger is a pure energy. Like I've said, it comes directly from spirit. It's an inner fire. You can actually call it spirit fire. I know some people have spoken about this before. Spirit fire. With the experience that I had with my dad, which was not about hatred, not about attacking, about self-defense and protection, not about hurting back, just clear protection and defense. What I've realized with that experience is that I felt energized from it. Because he couldn't get any supply from me. It's anchored, it comes from within, it comes from spirit, it's yours. That's the key to get from the orange light to the green light. And that's the key, getting out of the matrix frequency and actually reaching true peace on the inside and the outside. And that's the paradox, right? That's why with information out there that tells you like we should just be love and light and all peace and bypassing that anger, it speaks to us because it makes sense logically. But in actuality, that's not true. That's not the path. Just like for true grief to be processed, anger is a very, very important step in the process. There are steps on the ladder. We try to bypass those steps because we have so much resistance to it. We have so much resistance to this organic dark aspect of ourselves and our relationship with anger and all of that stuff. We try to bypass the steps, which ultimately prevents us going anywhere. We stay stuck. Those steps cannot be bypassed. And so for women especially, there needs to be a reconnection to our inner guidance system, feeling those energies on such a subtle level, increasing our sense of self-love, self-worth, self-respect, and healing our relationship with anger so that we can make that distinction between reactive anger and righteous anger, and use the righteous anger as the alchemical fuel that it is. It is a gift. It is actually a gift. Righteous anger, like I said, is the gateway. It is actually how you fully reconnect with your spirit. I know that, I felt through various experiences this, I think what people have called Holy Spirit. It's like this electricity running down my body. It's a reconnection. It's spirit fire. It's an inner fire. And that's why the logo that I use on this channel, it comes from the heart, because I embody that love. I'm very connected to my heart. But it's also that fire, because we need to descend and find the gateway to our inner transformation. But it's an inner transformation through fire, through igniting that flame. Not enough people have that flame activated in the world anymore. A lot of people are toxic and in reactive anger, yeah. A lot of people are apathetic. But that flame, you can feel it when someone has it activated fully. It's loving, but it's also uncompromising. It's powerful. It's softness and power. It's fierceness. It has nothing to do with meanness, with attacking, with becoming the abuser. It is pure protection. And if you've had that inner protector activated in your life, where you're able to actually very clearly feel that, what people call mama bear energy, right, with your kids to protect them, this is what you need to activate for yourself, because we tend to actually have it activated to protect others, to protect the innocence, but we don't realize that our heart is also the innocence that we have to protect. So there is an awareness and an awakening that needs to happen, where you start to see yourself in a divine light. This path is very much connected with the spiritual. And once you see yourself so clearly, then you will have to put that protection. And like I said, it doesn't mean that it's forever. It's just a gateway. It's a gateway out of the matrix frequency. And it's going to look different for different people. Hopefully you don't have to tackle that to the ground. I'm probably an extreme example because of the ancestral family bloodline that I was born into. But despite everything that's happened in this journey for me, I feel like, because of how intense it's been for me, my words have and hold a lot of power, because I've lived it. I know the resistance that we have to this work. I know that it's our biggest shadow, resurrecting this dark organic aspect of ourselves. And I know it is key to our liberation. And I also know that there is so much programming and confusion out there that's not helpful. But on this journey, we have to take full responsibility. We need to ask our soul for guidance. We need to continually tune in, feel into that inner guidance system. And when experiences after experiences after experiences come into your life and you realize keeping the peace is getting you nowhere, you need to ask yourself, how many times do I have to learn the same lessons? Once you are ready for that transformation, it is an embodied energy. You have to be completely done with the bullshit. That's the energy to embody. To completely understand that you cannot get to true peace without clearing the chaos. And clearing the chaos happens through conflict and through addressing issues and speaking up and speaking the truth and seeing things exactly as they are. So to end this, I just did a little summary of where I see the difference between reactive anger and righteous anger. I thought it's a good visual for you to take. So as a summary, reactive anger, is this aggressive, agitated, chaotic and destructive energy that's actually very depleting and disempowering. It's rooted in insecurity. It's also rooted in a need for control. If we're talking about road rage, for example, it's depleting because it's that energy is being lushed out of us. And with reactive anger, it's this blind rage, like you're not really fully in your body. It's a disembodied energy, actually. And you're not really in control of yourself, or your energy. With righteous anger, the energy is completely different, like I said. It's this fierce, grounded energy that's rooted in confidence and sovereignty, self-love, self-respect, self-worth, seeing yourself in your full light and divinity. And it's a very empowered, expansive energy. Expansive, as in, it cannot be lushed from. It's actually energizing. It's pure and sacred energy. It's actually creation energy. And it's, rooted in clarity. It's a sense of complete clarity about who you are not, what you stand for and what you do not stand for, what you allow and what you won't allow. And it's having that full presence and embodiment in your body. So that's what I had for you today. I hope this is helpful. Like I said, this path of awakening, this path towards wholeness is a path of becoming fuller and fuller on the inside, which is actually a process of embodying more and more of your soul, more and more of your light, and being actually more and more present and grounded in your body. And righteous anger for us is the gateway. So I hope this is helpful. This is an invitation for you to feel into those two energies in your own life, because you will need to master this. You will actually need, it's not just about what I'm saying, you will actually need to feel it in your own body so you can become sovereign and empowered and put it into practice. But overall, never suppress that energy. It's there to help you. It's a fuel. It's literally your spirit talking to you and giving you that fuel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.